What if the thing you've been overlooking in your business is the very thing that could create another 100,000, 500,000, or even $1 million? Not a new strategy, not more leads, but your culture. Hmm. Because whether you've defined it or not, you have one. The question is it working for you or working against you? And we want to dig into today. So if you're questioning, you're listening there and you're like, I don't know what my culture is. Or, yes, I do have one. You still want to listen because today we're going to unpack number of ideas for you to help figure out how culture can help you find money under your feet. And so I'm excited for you guys to be here. Thank you, everyone who's been listening. I can't believe we're on season 8. This is so exciting. We have a special guest today that I'll let Jada introduce you guys to a little bit. Somebody near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited to have him share his experience. But I want to thank everyone. If you're out there and you're on a treadmill, you're in your car, whatever it is that you're doing when you listen to this, we really appreciate you. And we want you to know that we understand that business is difficult and that we need all the leverage and the tools necessary. And we want to be that for you. We do ask that you like and subscribe because, well, the social media people who play all of the stat games require that for us to get any leverage. And and most importantly, Jada and I, our heart, please share this. If you know a business person, somebody starting a business that is struggling, or somebody that just wants to take it to the next level, please share this. This is a resource that's free, that has action packed, like actual action steps they can take. Be that friend. Be the person who makes a difference in somebody else's life by sharing this podcast. So I just thank you guys for being here. And Jada, can we dig a little bit into like what culture really means?
Yes. Well, like you said, everyone has a culture, whether they know it or not, and whether they are intentionally creating that culture or not. So we'll dive into
Mhm.
that today. But if you've been listening to the first 2 episodes of this season, you know that this whole season is about the one idea that can create $100,000 to $1 million in revenue. So today is no different. We have an amazing guest that I'll introduce here in just a second. But today's idea is going to be focused on how company culture is not just a nice to have, it really is a growth driver in your business. Culture is one, how your team shows up whenever you're not in the room, how they treat your clients, how they handle pressure, and
Mhm.
whether they stay or they leave. A strong
Mhm.
culture is going to create high retention, performance, accountability, and loyalty that you cannot buy. And so a weak culture is going to cost you money every single day and
Mhm.
turnover and missed opportunities and lack of ownership that leads to more problems. And most leaders aren't going to realize it because culture is often invisible until it breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that is what we're talking about today. We have a wonderful guest. His name is Justin Manning. He is the founder and CEO of Driving Hope and Extreme Auto Group. And I'm very excited about this conversation because on the outside, you may think that he is just a high performance, high energy businessman. But what Justin has built inside is something much deeper. It's a culture rooted in people, community, and giving others hope. Justin started his business in 1999 at 28 years old. And like most real journeys, it came with a lot of scars, partnership splits, embezzlement, tax liens, second mortgages, just to keep going. But through every challenge, one thing proved true that hope is built on keeping promises. So, to clients, to his team, to people that are counting on them. And that principle didn't just keep the business alive, it became the foundation of everything that they're building today. So,
Mhm. Love that.
thank you, Justin, for being here today. I'm so excited, and I'll let Athena take it away.
Justin, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so a little background for our listeners. Justin and I got to meet in a lobby in a hotel in San Diego because we both had the privilege of being summoned through Darren Hardy to be in a very elite group. And we hit it off. I just liked you in the lobby and we hit it off. And then we got to experience a day together where we got to listen to wise ideas from other people, but you really stood out to me, your heart, and so I'm so thankful for you to be here and share this knowledge with our listeners. So thank you. I know you're busy. I know you have a lot on your plate. So thank you so much for being here.
You are very welcome, and that the lead in of what we're going to be discussing, and thinking of those little hidden things that we don't realize are even going on right underneath our
Mhm.
own feet. and all of a sudden things start seemingly like what just happened and breaking apart. So hopefully as we're going through this, that all of those hard experiences that I've been through, I know that your audience has been through, that we can provide a couple of ideas and ways to really just think about culture as not abstract or a poster on the wall. It's something that needs to like live and breathe that your team is defending. So,
Oh,
so this
I
is going
like
to be
that. I like that, Jada. Let's put that your team is defending. I really
I
like
love
that.
that.
Yeah. Okay, so Justin, when people hear extreme auto group, they're not probably thinking culture or even hope. So, how would you define the culture you've built? Where did it come from? Auto group, hope, culture. Please explain.
yeah. If I were to sum up our culture in one word, it is hope. What do we need more of? Our
Mhm.
team members, our clients, our families, we need more hope. So thinking of just that word, how do you operationalize hope? And that's what I set out to like how do we do that with in the context of culture? What does that mean? So to start with, let's talk about what's the silver bullet in business. So let's just think, is there a silver bullet? I know that I've teased different people that I've worked. I need the silver bullet. Help me figure this out. And so if we can just start with the silver bullet and helping understand what that is, and as we're going through culture, that hopefully you can see that okay, this is why focusing on culture can tie to the silver bullet, which is
Listening.
client experience. Your
Oh,
client experience isn't where you intentionally set it or where we set out to make it. What are we missing?
mm.
So, client experience and how important is your team to client experience?
I mean, are you asking? I mean, because
Yeah,
critical, right?
Yeah.
It am I right here, people? I think it's critical. Your team define the client experience.
yeah. And a quote, I can't remember exactly where it came from, but your business is only what your clients are telling others about it. Like your business is what people are telling people about it, right?
Yeah.
So, how valuable is that client experience? And we're going to work to connect team to that. So, to dive deeper into where my passion started with trying to understand this and figure this out for so May 1st, 1999 is the day that I left the dealership world. And here's why. As a technician inspected the car, brought information to my desk. This is what's needed on the car. Suspicions crept up in my mind that I don't think what he is telling me is needed on their car. And lunchtime rolled around, the car was still on the hoist. I walked out, looked at what was recommended, and there was not a leak. The technician said there was starting on that car. So that moment, I'm like, I'm not going to be dishonest with my clients. And so I brought this issue to the service manager. And as I was reviewing it with the service manager, do you want to know what he told me?
Oh, I'm scared. Yeah.
He said, it's not your job to question the recommendations. It's your job to sell them. Ah, so now bringing that back into culture, who was setting the culture in that scenario and allowing it to occur?
Mhm. The leadership.
The leadership. So the
Yeah.
manager that was put into place, he was okay with that as long as you made the sell. Now, what about from a client perspective? Shock you a little bit that happened?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. So just taking a look at from that experience, that's the day that I left. I started my own auto repair shop with that vision. There's a better way. There's a better way to take care of people. And that client experience has to be at the center of it. And if I were to say that for 26 years that it was been perfect the whole time, what would you say? I
Impossible.
Impossible.
Right.
What gets in the way from that initial vision, that excitement that I'm going to change the world. I'm gonna make sure that this is the way we're doing things forever. What are the things that get in the way from starting out and then life and business starts progressing? What are the things that kick in that cause us to drift?
Mhm. Tell us,
Yeah, everything, right? It's like,
right?
oh, I got to
Yeah.
deal with finances now. I've got to deal with employees. I've got all of these things that are
Mhm.
now just coming at me probably faster than I was ever trained for, right? It being in business is its own education.
And you feel survival mode, you do feel if you've owned a business or are responsible for business, there are many more moments, tell me if you agree with this, that you feel like you're in survival mode. And survival mode does not lend itself to allow you to be the most creative, innovative, and, think about higher things like culture and client experience.
Exactly. So drift definitely happens.
Mhm,
And so now, and as
yeah,
Jada introduced things, well, what starts happening when drift occurs? Then you have a default culture starting to kick in, and it drifts just ever so slightly, hopefully slightly. Sometimes, this customer was really pissed this round because we did not keep up with our promises, right? So thinking about in the very beginning, so that I left a dealership to create something better.
mhm,
And to be honest, I didn't think about culture. And w- thinking when I got rocking and rolling and we're helping customers, just realizing when we're starting out, well, I'm the culture. Like my vision, I'm bringing it to life. But I'm the culture. And and the illusion that your team is they just are getting it, right? Yeah, they see me. They clearly know what our culture is, right? They're gonna clearly perpetuate it, right?
yeah, clearly,
Clearly, right? It's as
yeah,
easy as that. I just show up and we're just excited and we're helping customers and I'm controlling the narrative because I'm helping all literally all the customers in the beginning, right? And so I'm able to control the experience, but the team is not aligned. They're feeling the energy, they like the excitement, but they are not aligned. So there's some critical things that I learned that we will suffer from that default culture. And I shudder to think, Athena, and you put this beautifully. What are the ideas that can make you 100,000, million, $1 million? I shudder to think of how many millions of dollars I left on the table over 26 years by not putting culture first and thinking about it. I really didn't have anybody to guide me. So this learning curve that we go through, uh, so if I were to go back and say, where do I need to start? It would be, okay, what culture do I want? I need to help my team align to it and that we stick with this forever. Okay. How easy is that?
I don't know, but I'm gonna ask you, so how does it look on your team? How does your team experience that in your company that's different? So that, if I'm listening, I'm like, "I want that." How does that look? Tell me that.
So we'll go into a little bit more about the culture. I think it's important. So again, so taking 26 years and so I'm going to go through a couple of experiences that kind of like that got me to realize, God, what is going on? Why are we dealing
Mhm,
with the same things over and over,
mhm,
same
yeah.
conversations, the same issues that are happening? And about 4 years ago, no, so let me, yeah, 4 years ago, I'm in my office, in this very office right here, and I have one of my leaders, a general manager, come into my office with yet just another like, "Hey, this scenario's going on. What do we gotta do?" It's like, why am I a firefighter? What's going on? He left my office, and I probably wasn't as kind as I should have been, thinking, I hired you. I put you through training. What is going on in my company, in my culture?" And at that moment, I just realized that I something is missing. There's a missing link of what I need to do to connect that what I know or I've been taught in trainings culturally, how do I put that into play? Number 1 was, "Oh, I'm not as good as I think I am at conveying what culture needs to be. I'm not as good of a leader as I thought I was, and that I needed some guidance, some training, and it had to start with me. It's not me having a meeting and then expecting everybody to do that. So it had to start with me. So I had to look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? How do I need to make sure that I'm stopping this insanity, like, as for good, and so just perpetuating things over the next couple of years and organizing things, whether it be there's definitely some training that you would be familiar with Darren Hardy, Hero's Journey. Business Masterclass was helpful for that. Um, uh, a book by Ben Horowitz, What You Do Is Who You Are,
Mm.
powerful in understanding how even civilizations created culture and then kept them, and
Oh, excellent.
what needed to be put into play to make that happen. So taking these elements, and thinking, what do we need to do? And I started with a list of like attributes, and then I thought, well, 12 attributes is just too many. I mean, I would go through those and say, okay, what are these attributes? What do they mean? What do they mean to the team? And so I actually started with that, and I presented those to the team, and still the nonsense was occurring. Like,
Yeah.
okay, but I'm not going to let up. I refined those attributes to 6 that truly align with me, my vision, what we need to do operationally as a company. And now I put these code of virtues, 6 code of virtues, into play with my
Mm.
team. It
Okay.
seems it seems like, oh, well, what are those? You're just putting these words out there. These became the code that our team lives by.
Mm.
I will hire for and I will fire quickly for, and they have to align with the business owner. Takes a minute to think through what those are, and so I'm gonna share a little bit of
Yeah.
the maybe a little of my personality. I don't know how many in your audience has seen the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Everybody probably.
I'm like,
Everybody.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm not a big TV movie person, and I've seen it, so at least
Okay.
1 or 2 of them.
Okay. Now, and if you haven't seen this one, you can even watch the little snippet. But the at World's End of the Pirates of the Caribbean, all of the pirate lords are coming together because they've got to fight the enemy on the ocean, right? We've got to come together as the pirate lords, and they're in Pirates Cove, and as they're talking about what they need to do, and they got to the point of well, we got to, elect a king and all of these scenarios, and and they started talking about the pirates code.
Okay.
And this code, as they were starting to say, the code's not real, the code's not important, the pirate that said that got shot, right? He got killed, right? Now, there's a code that keeps things in order. And so I show that to each team member, each new team member that comes in. I show that little snippet of these pirates coming together. And I says, okay, we're not going to kill you, but you need to understand that they're that important. And so I've got my little code of virtues book that I've made it fashioned out like this code is like cool or whatever. It's just a 3-ring binder. But
But I love the visual aid, I love it.
and so now I'm going to share just one code that I made sure was very clear. And as I was training my whole team on these code of virtues, I had one team member the next day, he quit.
Good. You didn't have to fire him,
I
didn't have to
didn't have
kill
to
him.
fire him.
Yep.
And so putting
They vote themselves off the island.
it is so much
True.
easier. It
Yeah,
is
okay.
so much easier. Absolutely.
All right, quick pause for a second. If you like how we think through things on this podcast, you'd probably get a lot out of Athena's weekly emails. They're short, to the point, and built around one idea that you can actually apply. No long newsletters, no fluff, just something that you can read in a few minutes and use the same day. If you want that kind of consistency, you can join us at athenacaptain.com.
Jada's
And
getting ideas. She's gonna be like, I'm creating this code. I'm gonna tell Athena what it is. Anyway, go ahead.
and I'm going to bring the one up that when we talk about what are the root causes of why frustrations happen among team members and those discords, you're familiar with, maybe your audience is familiar with the term of A team,
Mhm.
like an
Yes.
A team.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, well, definitely we want an A team players. They get it, they're getting it done. And so I put a little definition to an A player. And that definition is number one is attitude. Like the right attitude, and then I'll describe the mindset that is expected in this company. And so code of virtue number one is A players only. And so if it's A players only, giving some instruction of what that means to me, attitude and ability has to be there in that order. I It's about a year ago, 2 years ago, was the very last time I hired for ability and skill only. I will not hire for ability and skill only. I am now asking the right questions when I'm interviewing and whatnot to make sure they're going to be a cultural fit with their attitude. And if they're not, I do not care how skilled they are. It's too costly for the team. And we'll go into that addition to that cost. But if we know what an A player is defined, this is what the attitude means to me and my company and our culture. You can define it for you. Well, that begs the question of, well, what's the opposite of an A player? Well, that's B and C players. And I have an emoji that is a pile of bull crap. So
I love
there's
it.
your B and C player. and a and a B player is a blamer. Like it's never their
Oh,
fault. Yeah. I mean, do we know some blame? No, this just thinking about all these things going, just blaming this other person, blaming them, blaming the situation, blaming the world because my life sucks. Just blaming. Like it's just an interesting dynamic of a blamer. And
no blamers.
no blame.
Hashtag no blamers.
No blamers. So now it's okay. So I'm going through that. Okay, well, what's a C player? Well, they're complainers.
Mm.
It's like, you know what? It's like things happen. Things we can have a bad day. Things can go on. So occasionally, we're all human. We're gonna have days. We're gonna have issues. There's nothing perfect. But a habitual complainer, talk about them working in your team. How's your team doing? With a blamer and complainer working in their around them. How are they doing?
Not well. And they irritate. They irritate an A player.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And now what's the cost of that? What's the cost of that to the team and their mindset?
Well, it reduces your energy, your creativity. A players don't like to work with B and C players.
Right.
Hmm.
And that's and I'm now going to share a very painful story. About 5 years ago, a player out in my shop, Mark, he just was a rock star. Came in, got things done, accurate, quality, just all of the elements that you could ask for. All of a sudden, I'm getting a 2-week notice from it. Where did that come from? And again, these are the daggers that are like, how much did this just cost me?
Mhm.
He quit because we allowed B and C players to operate, low performers to operate around him. He quit. A high producer, seemingly out of nowhere, but he quit. Now we can talk about the default culture I allowed in my company to just happen. everybody should just be getting it. I've had these meetings. This is what, this is everybody gets it, and but the reality is then all of a sudden if we allow that default culture, we're getting smacked with a 2-week notice from our best players because we've allowed a different culture to happen in our company. So I now for your audience, just taking a moment and stop that. And there again, this one thing that I'm sharing, this code of virtues may seem like, oh, that's just seems like fluff. But you've just got to realize that how do you get this is a key way to get your team not just rowing in the same direction. That's the start. Rowing in sync is the next step.
Mhm.
So, all right. So there's just that one little bit thinking about where my coach, the things that just
Mhm.
keep me up after 20 plus years. I'm still dealing with this, and finally getting pissed off to say there's just got to be a way to now operationalize hope.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about the cost of not thinking about that. There's definitely a cost among your team member. How much does it cost to train a new team member to come on?
Mhm.
Especially one that's a rock star. How much does it cost in productivity from the rest of your team? And just by allowing that default experience, how much is it costing on customers that never come back
Mhm.
and never say anything?
Yeah. And hey, I've been guilty of this myself.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
We can
Every business owner, leader has to be identifying what you are talking about.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I so now a question. If we asked every member of your audience
Mhm.
to define their culture, what is culture and what is your culture? So how many would be able to provide an answer to that? And how many different answers would we get?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Probably a different answer from every single person on here. What
Mhm.
is that? So just thinking about it's got to start with the leader. It has to. That's the only way that things are going to change. The power, as we know, of the leader setting the example. If the leader's not setting the example of what you have decided as a code of virtue, don't put one in there that you're not going to keep at a level 10. Like you've got to keep it. So don't put anything in there that you're not willing to set the example on.
Mhm.
And be willing to hold accountability. Thinking about cultures, so we can think of like the Chinese dynasties. How did they keep their culture? Well, they killed people who were going against their culture. They
And we're
did,
not saying do that.
and we are not saying do that. We can joke around about it. I've had a couple of team members, "Hey, we should build a gallows out in the back of our shop. Like, just build a gallows out there. That way, everybody just knows, right?" So we can joke around about those things. But the reality is if we allow a default culture to come in, there's only one person to blame by not thinking about it and understanding it. And the book that I described, What You Do Is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz, I love him dissecting culture, what causes it, what keeps it, and how do you instill it. He looked at civilization, businesses, and how businesses keep it. And to be honest, as I read through his book,
Mhm.
when he started out in business, he was asking the questions I wished I would have. Where should I start? And it was culture. Get your culture right.
So I love what you're saying, and I mean, it's so valuable what you've already said. Once implemented, I mean, you've been doing this for 26 years. You've learned the hard way. Now you have this. How has it affected your culture, the results, revenue? Tell us that. I'm in. I identify with screwing it up,
Yeah.
and
I
I
think,
have hope. So you're giving me some hope that
yeah.
I can get better.
Yeah.
What results can I expect if and when when I apply this?
Yeah. And so just is getting culture into play. And I will give just a very clear, fun example that like, oh, this is really cool. that we now have, and there's more aspects than the code of virtues, and we can talk about a few of those. So just thinking about what I would recommend a starting point, think about that. And then the other elements of those code of virtues that all lead to that client experience, that silver bullet. Uh, I have team members that do not want to leave my company. And the very last job ad that we put out, the marketing job ad, so just make your job ads about a marketing piece, as you may have already talked to your audience about. But we had numerous applicants. We picked through them. We all want the best ones, right? When we're hiring, we want the best ones. How do you find the best ones? But when you find the best ones, and when you're in that interview process, it was so fun to know clearly. I could predict whatever company they're in. I could tell them what their culture is, especially in the auto repair industry, right? I can tell them what the culture is. All I needed to do, ask them questions, and I know the things that were frustrating them that I could now use as a weapon to bring them into my company. So we did this literally a couple of months ago, and just being able to speak to what we know our culture is, that we can now guarantee, like we've systemized it, that they can feel that hope. And then when they come in, they realize, oh, that's not just a sales job. This is, and to be honest, we had two recent hires that like, do you really do that? Like, really? You keep to this code? Everybody keeps to this code of virtues? Yes, we do. And they come in and they find that others are talking about it. Others are now defending the culture because they don't want a bad culture.
Mhm.
Okay, now that angle has definitely made an impact, and now an additional. So last Thursday,
Mhm.
we had somebody that was like on the B and C player track,
Mhm.
and he walked into my office and he says, "Hey, it's time for me to move on." Okay,
Yeah.
the expectations there. We did have a pip with him, and we had the conversation, and he just realized, just for some reason I'm just not fitting. It's great. It really is making it easy for the team to pick out. Uh, and they're not fitting. Now, to be fair, I want to make sure, and Athena, you'll recognize this aspect of it. If
Mhm.
something's not going right, it's the leader's job to look in the mirror first. Like, whether it's culture or that individual, and then make sure we're separating the behavior from the human, right? Something can go bad in somebody's day, and it doesn't mean, oh yeah, you're against our code of virtue, right? No, no, we're here to help people grow. We're here to help people grow into an A player mindset, but we have to look in the mirror first and then make sure we're not attacking the person. We just are taking a look at the behavior. Is there training? What do we need to do? And then training is two: mirror first, training, and then is it the right person?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
making sure that, yeah, this is, I recognize, even when I say A player, it's, we're here to help you grow into it. I get that we all don't have it right now. Like some people do, but that's probably like 5% of the world or less. All right. Yeah, they just got it. But we have to train that. And that's part of an onboarding process. So now thinking about how important is an onboarding process to the culture you want them to start with so that they stick with. And now it's reinforcing that culture.
Mhm.
All
And
right.
what do
So
you feel?
I'm talking a lot.
No, no, this is excellent. This is excellent. Because it is it's honestly not something that's brought up a lot, but I agree with you because the culture, I love what you said about the silver bullet. And Jada and I mean, we could speak to it. We won't spend a lot of time to that, but we understand how impactful client experience is to the bottom line
Absolutely.
in a hurtful way.
Mhm.
Um, and a helpful way. We have experienced it firsthand in a business that we are a part of. And so, I love that you're bringing this up and how important the team, their attitude, and the culture reflects to that experience. But What do you think most business owners get wrong when they say they care about culture? I mean, we're not, even I'm not a dumb business person, but I went limping along for way too long, even sounds like you did,
Mhm.
that we just didn't understand the power of culture. Why do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just a lack of find going to the right sources to just
Yeah.
understand what it is and learning
Mhm.
what it is. I think that definitely is a big part of it. And then of again, no fault of any of ours. Like we learn unfortunately we learn the hard way. But to have to come and just learn things and then have to come back and pick up some of the pieces. But
Mhm.
but now just even with this interview, this podcast, let's not put it on the back burner. There's small things that can be done that now sync together that keep that culture together. So yeah, I think because it's like you can read 100 different books.
Right.
So where are you going? And how am I supposed to do this? Like literally, how am I supposed to put this together so that it's a system and organized? And that's what we've been working on. And so thinking about the driving hope version of what we're working on, it is a program we're working on that other businesses can use in the future. It's not ready right now. You and I touched bases on it not too long ago in San Diego, leading us to this conversation. But what are the elements that we can put into, but taking that moment, and I'm just going to refer back to Ben Horowitz's book because he didn't need to write a book for money. He had already done it. And
Yeah.
he was just freaking curious on how culture is curated, kept, organized, and how do you apply that in a prison system? How do you like a
Mhm.
prisoner in a prison system?
Yeah.
These are the stories in there. Oh, there's a way. You just gotta understand these pieces so that you can now weaponize your culture for your benefit, like, for your client experience benefit, for your team
Mhm.
benefit, so you can attract the right pieces.
Yeah. I love it. I
Like,
love
y
the coat of arms. I will tell you, when we in one of the businesses that I'm a part of, when we finally realized we didn't have culture and we decided to get culture, one of the things that we did is sit down as a leadership team and define things that are important to us, right? But I will say, so if you already have a team, Jada was one of the people on our team that we said if we could duplicate,
Mhm,
right? Her, and what were her attributes. And so we put the leadership attributes that we all agreed on, and then we put key A player attributes, down. And that from there, we came up with those code of armor, if you will, the code of, this is what we're looking for. So I agree with you. And when we did that, we did see a shift. And it does whiffed out when you do that. The B and C players kind of percolate to the top. Wouldn't you agree, Jada?
Yeah, especially whenever you're bringing up, those core values, if you will,
Yeah.
like on a regular
Hmm.
basis and doing core value shout outs, even. I think
Hmm.
amplifying the good core values that some A players are having or multiple A players are having can really make those B and C players shine in
Yeah.
not a good way.
Yeah. But it's so true. But it's so
Yeah.
true.
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah,
But
so
Yeah.
curating culture and keeping culture, they're 2 things, 2 separate things. Starting, how do we now keep that? And so, yeah, those
love
shout
it.
outs and calling those out. Just one more thing that I think would be just
Yeah.
food for
Yes.
thought, and this is what we have been doing to make sure that we are keeping our culture at top of mind, and here's one key element, we will keep our A players at the center. We want to help them hit their personal goals. So understanding your A players' personal goals, that we are here to enhance the lives of our A players. So connecting back to the human, like how do we know their personal goals and dreams, and how are we keeping track of those? So I want to challenge, and I'll call myself out first. 20 plus years, I didn't even do reviews. They came up as an idea. We need to be consistent at reviews. But what's a review? And going back to my dealership years, a review was an opportunity to give me a pip, like sit me down and tell me crap, man, give me a crap sandwich. This is good. This isn't good. But anyway. And so I want to maybe give everybody food for thought to shift away from the review mindset altogether. And what we have started doing, I call them impact check-ins. In an impact check-in, the leader is trained to only talk about what's important to that team member, their personal goals, their career goals, how they're doing. And then that team member can rate themselves on our code of virtues, each one of them. Then our leader can talk to them about, hey, I'm seeing you're better than you're thinking, and we can now infuse that. Then they get to rate their leader on the code of virtue. Again, people can be dishonest, they can lie because they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. But then I want them to rate the company on a quarterly basis. We're sitting down, personal goals, understanding that, putting it in we've got a program, but I know that it's like, how do we do that? How do we organize that? But taking the time to quarterly sit down with another human being that probably doesn't have anybody spending much time with them outside of their whole life that's interested in them. So how do we keep A players and how do we enforce culture? That's one key thing that we have found is very powerful, to take that 45 minutes to sit down with them once a quarter and talk about just them. All right.
I
So
love that.
there's one
Good
piece.
nuggets, my
Yes.
friend. So good. So
Mhm.
good. Well, thank you so much. You guys, this was fantastic. I needed to hear this. I know Jada is taking notes um, as a leader and an A player. But you guys, I want to give you guys some rubber meets the road. And of course, both of you can chime in here. But I'm really excited because I love it when the rubber meets the road, which is, how you take this and do something with it. Although, Jordan, you did a very good job at giving us things. I mean, Justin, I might call you Jordan. Justin, um, on giving us really good, already practical tips. But now I'm going to take it and just try to formalize it for you guys. And of course, it will be in our guide. All right. So number one, define what you actually stand for. Right. And my friend here, I think, Justin, that's exactly where you started, right? Like, what do you want to start? Who are you? What you want? What's important to you? And write it down.
Hmm.
And by the way, I'm going to encourage, because I've done this exercise too. We pushed away from things like honesty, integrity. Those are given. And I like my core values to be trackable and measurable, like grit, farmer work ethic, solution driven, not excuses. So things that you can actually look at a human being and say, they're doing that. And I see it in X behavior. Another one that we like is, did I say farmer work ethic?
Yeah, you
Yes.
did.
I did. Okay, I'm going to keep going to that one. I guess that one matters to me. But growth mindset, right? A growth mindset. And so these are things that you can see. We just did a hiring of a gentleman, and I had him in the hiring process. I had him score himself to our core values, by the way. And one of the scores he gave himself based on my interview with him, I think he overscored himself, and I challenged him on it. And he got a little, neck out of wacky for a second until we walked through it. Now, I'll tell you, once we walked through it, he didn't disagree. But why that was important is because he needed to understand that we had that guillotine, right? There's going to be like, right? Not really, but that he needed to align and he needed to be used to these conversations. So whatever it is for you, you need to know, what do you actually stand for? What's important? What can you not tolerate? I'll just tell you, Jada will laugh. I can't handle a snowflake. Can't do it. I can't work with one. Sorry. I'm tough. Everyone around me is tough. I need you to have grit. I need you to have fortitude, or I just can't. So as a leader, that for you, if you're listening, maybe that's not your thing. But for me, if you don't have that grit and snowflake, we're not going to work well together. So I'll make you miserable, not good, right? So you do need to know that. Number two, right? Audit your current culture. Is your team engaged? Are they showing up? Do they take ownership? Do they feel empowered to make change? Are they talking to you? Are they mentoring other people? And if you can't answer what your culture is, do what Justin said and take a second and sit down and look at the behavior of your people, and it'll tell you the culture. And culture shift, by the way, you talked about this too, of, I'm seeing a cultural shift in a company that I'm very familiar with where it's becoming a culture of micromanagement and fear,
Mm.
from empowerment and encouragement and growth, and it's coming from leadership. So I think, you know leaders, we need to be, we do all this work, we create a culture, and then a situation can happen and we can change the culture very quickly. So ask yourself, what is your current culture, and let's talk about it as a team. And do we need to change it? What do we need to change? Number three, recognize and reinforce the right behavior. Hey, Jada, I loved how you brought this one up.
Mm,
Knowing, you need to know, once you have good behavior and you define it as that's going to be one of your core values and that's going to be part of your culture, call it out.
mhm.
Right? Call it out. Reinforce the good behavior. You said it. When you're reinforcing those behaviors that solidify the culture in a positive way, those B and C players, they're not getting called out, and they become aware, and the whole team becomes aware. So it's almost like in parenting, right? Like, do more of the positive and not reinforcing the negative. Um, I'm not saying I did that well as a parent, but what I'm saying is that's more effective. So reinforce the positive, and what gets rewarded, it gets done. Call it out, reward it, repeat it, etc. Number four, address what you've been avoiding. So if something's off, if you just know like something's off, then let's address it. And I love, Justin, how you said people were coming to your office and you were just a firefighter. You knew something was off, but you were bold enough not to avoid it. So when something's off that is causing the client experience, the golden nugget, ask yourself what's going on? What am I avoiding? What do I not want to look at? What am I as a leader not wanting to see because I don't want to deal with it? Because that avoidance is part of a culture that becomes culture. So really ask yourself. And number five, um, lead it, lead by it. Don't delegate it. Right. So you as a leader, it's the hardest job in the world because all of them, you've got to be doing it better than your team. You've got to be able to allow your team to call you out if you are not. And you have to understand that you are the source of the culture and what you identify. So really start thinking through. It's why, going back to Justin's beginning, the culture has to come from the leader because you've got to emulate it. Darren Hardy says the same thing. The culture starts with him and then he looks at his A players and what's necessary. But it really does. This is not trying to be arrogant or egotistical as a leader, but it has to fit with you so that everyone can work with you as well. So really important there. So you got to lead by it, be the example, and allow yourself to be called out if you get a little sloppy. If you get sloppy or lazy, allow yourself to be called out. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I'm I'm going to tell you, I think we've demonstrated today with our wonderful guest that there is money sitting there if you can adjust your culture, that which adjusts your client experience, which also impacts your turnover, etc. That's a revenue driver. And by the way, it's less stress. Less stress. So,
Absolutely.
I think that's critical. So, thank you guys for listening. Hey, Jada, I know you're going to close us up like you always do, unless you have something to add to this, because I know you have been part of no culture, creating culture, culture kind of changing. You've been in the middle of all of it.
Yeah. The only thing that I was gonna add is, like, a kind of, like, funny little story in the middle, but then it didn't feel like a good time, so I'll make it super short.
Yes. Yeah.
Something that Justin said just kinda made me laugh because 'cause I've only ever worked for small businesses, I've never worked for, like, a corporate structure, and so, where in corporate you have maybe a weekly meeting with your manager, quarterly reviews, that's, like, very typical in the corporate world. However, I am only worked for small businesses, and so I thought it was funny that you mentioned those quarterly reviews because I actually am both my jobs post college, I've had to ask for like, "Hey, are we gonna do an annual review?" Like, I so
Yep.
that was that was pre-determining our culture here, obviously, but it just is so funny because it was one of those things I was like, "I just thought that I would get these." Like, I, like, wanna know how I'm doing, you know? Like, I
Yeah.
guess if I'm not being fired, I'm not doing terrible, but
You
it
wanted
just
to
I thought
know.
that was
How
funny.
dare you want to know?
I know. I'm
Hey,
also a words of affirmation person though, so I kinda like being told when I am doing a good job,
only an A player
but
will ask for feedback.
Yep.
that's fair. I guess if I was a B or C player, I probably wouldn't ask because
Mm,
I would wanna fly under the radar.
Yep. Exactly.
So
There's
anyways,
your
I just thought that
sign,
was
folks,
funny.
of an A player right there. Where's my review?
I'm like but anyways, I thought that was funny, so I wanted to share that with you guys and with our audience today. But the last thing I want everyone to hear that's listening to this is that culture is not soft. It really is one of those hardest drivers of your results in your business. It's going to determine, like Justin said, who stays because people may vote themselves off the island, who performs, and then how your business is actually going to grow. So if those things feel off, if your team isn't where you want them to be, don't just look at your strategy for sales or marketing, look at your culture because that might be the shift that you need and that changes everything. So, that's the last thing I wanted to leave everyone with today. But as always, if this episode hit you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Make sure that you subscribe so you can always join us next week. We've got some more leaders and more real conversations and more 100,000 to $1 million ideas coming this season. Grab your season 8 resource guide, get on the list for Athena's upcoming book for the show notes, and we will see you next week.
Thank you guys for being here.